In this video, there's the Prepared Homestead and Black Scout Survival. It's about gun rights, folks. They're taking them away. They're taking them away methodically, little by little. And I warn people. I told a guy who was a Marine friend of mine in, I think 2010. I said, they're going to take away the guns. He said, out of my cold dead fingers, I said, interesting. And because the government's got a program called Cold Dead Fingers. They come in your house, they'll shoot first and ask questions later. Folks, they started with bump stocks. Actually, they started before that, but we're going to go with the bump stocks. Recently, I started working toward the handguns. Folks, in Australia, there was attacks by Muslims. And the police said, run! And the police ran too. Why? Because they took away their guns. Crime doesn't go down just because they take away guns. And all you people who are deaf, dumb, and blind, pay attention. Because guess what? You're next. I'm out.
I want to show you a couple of video clips here. Now I'm going to be editing them down in length, but I'm not chopping them up. I have to edit them down in length to avoid potentially a copyright infringement. So we'll see if I can get away with it. But the first one is Kash Patel, the FBI director, and the second one is Bassett, the Treasury Secretary. They're both talking about the Second Amendment. I want you to listen. See what you think.
But as Secretary Noem said, no one who wants to be peaceful shows up at a protest with a firearm that is loaded with 2 full magazines. That is not a peaceful protest, and you do not get to touch law enforcement. You do that anywhere, this FBI is going to be leading the charge to arrest those.
But he brought a gun. He brought a gun. Have you ever gone to a protest, Jonathan?
I mean, we do have a Second Amendment in this country that...
Jonathan, have you ever gone to a protest?
All right. This is what I've been warning about. I've taken a little flack with this deal up in Minnesota, with the deal a few weeks ago in Minnesota with the woman in the car, and all the stuff that's been going on when it comes to the immigration stuff. It doesn't matter which side of the fence you are on this one. You can dislike both having illegals in your country and wanting them, you can want them deported and dislike having them here, and at the same time be opposed to tyrannical tactics that are being used. I believe fully that what we're seeing here is not a way to get rid of illegals, but it's a way to implement big government tyrannical stuff. I mean, all this stuff that's been going on, the Trump administration still has not been deporting people at the levels of Obama, Biden, Clinton, Bush Jr., none of them. And now it's gotten twisted to where it's against the Second Amendment. If you are wearing a gun and you go to a protest, you're a criminal, you're a terrorist. I know, we can get into all but maybe the guy resisted, maybe he did this, maybe he did that. That's not their argument anymore. Their argument simply is that he deserved what he got because he showed up at a protest armed, and that you should never do that. That right there is a crime, even though it's not. Even though I could show you hundreds of pictures over the last 5-6 years of MAGA people showing up at protests fully armed. The narrative now is from the DHS secretary, the director of the FBI, the Treasury Secretary, Stephen Miller, all of them. The White House's narrative is that this was justified because this guy was wearing a firearm. And you can go into, I've seen people, well, you know, they didn't have an ID, and according to Minnesota state law, I don't care about that. That's a $25 misdemeanor fine, and it's also unconstitutional. So in a short amount of time, we were able to take the conservative, pro-gun, pro-Second Amendment party and turn it into basically liberal anti-gun talking points, using terms like it was a military-style weapon. Anyone that shows up with 2 magazines or 2 clips of ammunition, that's a criminal. They're a terrorist. How many of you carry a military-style semi-automatic pistol with 2 magazines fully loaded? Probably should carry more than that, but hey, I've been warning you about this. You can hate me and you can say I'm wrong, but the narrative today, because people are starting to say, well, you know, this is a little sketchy, maybe, you know, maybe they were justified, maybe they weren't, but I think we should do an investigation. I mean, these guys, according to the news, that they've not even been put on any kind of, you know, off-duty or, goodness, my mind just went blank. Like, it's not suspension, but to where they're not active on the streets. They're still actively out there doing their job. Typically in law enforcement, even if it's totally justified, they pull you off the streets for at least usually, you know, a few weeks, 30 days. No, they're still doing their job. And so now the narrative is that it was simply because the guy had a weapon. It made it justified. It made it okay. And if that's going to be the narrative, then folks, we've turned down the wrong street somewhere. If now the narrative is that you are simply committing a crime because you're carrying a firearm legally, which, I mean, according to the Constitution, any way to carry a firearm is legally. You don't need a permit. I mean, yes, I know. Legally, in some states, you need a permit. But according to the U.S. Constitution, you do not. According to the U.S. Constitution, any state that has any type of permitting or background check or anything is a violation of the Constitution. I am an absolutist in that. But let's just say he did have a concealed carry license. According to the state of Minnesota, he was carrying legally. And they didn't say that he didn't have an ID on him. They said that they were not able to immediately find an ID on him. But the narrative is now, if you carry a firearm and you confront police officers, and maybe you're at the scene of a protest, then you're a terrorist. Whatever happens to you is justified. So that means our founding fathers were that. I mean, come on, folks. We are going down a slippery slope. And the scary thing is that there's a lot of conservative influencers, big loud voices that are supporting this narrative 100%. And if you can stop and think back how much things have shifted just in the last year. You know, now it's, you know, a little over a year ago, no new wars, Epstein released the documents, you know, all this kind of stuff. Now, Epstein's not that important. It's okay. And yes, we have to bomb Iran, and we have to bomb Venezuela, and we have to bomb, you know, Colombia, and maybe Mexico, and definitely Cuba. And if Greenland doesn't play ball, we'll bomb them. And I mean, that's the new narrative. Do you see how fast things have shifted amongst what's considered the conservative voices in America? So if we continue down this path at that same way of changing the narrative, How much longer will it be to where guns are just bad? They need to be very much regulated. We need to pass some laws regulating guns. There's too much gun violence. And now all of a sudden you've got Republicans, the conservatives, basically spinning the same message as Democrats, as the liberals. They got you right where they want you, is what it sounds like to me. The plan worked perfectly. Now, the only ones that actually oppose this is they're just the small minority fringe people like you and I, and we'll just eventually be deemed domestic terrorists, and all these new mental institutions that the president is wanting to build probably will work great for us, and we can go be re-educated, which is a term that both the liberal Democrats and conservative Republicans have said in the last 5 or 6 years, that there needs to go through some kind of re-education. I know, I'm way out there in the fringe and the weeds, but I don't think that I'm too far off, folks. And I'm telling you, we're going down a dangerous path. You take this along with all the other stuff going on, World Economic Forum stuff, dollars in crisis and collapse, you know, everything else that's happening. I hope you like what you got, because I think we're going down a really, really dangerous path, and someday people are going to wake up and see maybe what's really happened. Folks, it's time to get your houses in order and prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually.
Before we get into this video, I need to say something, because people are too emotional right now. When people are emotional, they stop thinking. So I'm going to cut through the noise. If you've watched my content for the past month, this moment shouldn't be a surprise to you, because what you're watching right now is balkanization, the slow ideological fracture of country into hostile tribes. And balkanization only has one destination, and that's civil conflict. Not because people want it, but because people start cheering the removal of constitutional rights as long as it's happening to the other team. And that's the part that should scare you. Because once you cheer that logic, you forfeit the right to complain when the same logic is applied to you. Now, here's the pattern, and it's undeniable, because people cheered when Charlie Kirk was brutally murdered because he was on the other side. The right was outraged. They said it was barbaric, said it was unjust. Now we're seeing the inverse. The rhetoric I've seen over the past 24 hours about a guy, we're going to get into the details of it, but I've seen them attacking his constitutional rights. And because he's perceived to be by the other team, people are cheering it again. Different politics, same sickness. That is dehumanization. Yuri Bestov talked about this. It's how societies rot from the inside, and it's happening in real time. I'm actually very shocked. I'm going to cut through the noise, though. You're going to see, we're going to discuss this in depth. So before you cast judgment, watch the entire of the video. But again, this is exactly what I warned about. You'll cheer the Patriot Act because the targets is them. You cheer for mass surveillance because it watches them. You cheer for gun restriction because it disarms them. Saw the same thing a few months back whenever people were cheering to remove trans gun rights. Not that I'm cool with that ideology at all, but I'm not into removing anyone's gun rights because I'm believing the Constitution. And you don't realize you're training the system to do one simple thing: ignore the Constitution when it's convenient. So when the other team in power changes, and it always does, you won't get to speak. You already surrendered your principle. Now, keep all of that in your head as we talk about what actually happened here, because this isn't about left versus right. This is about the rules, what they mean. Okay? and when emotions are high. So here's what we see in the video. Okay, facts only. I'm going to post them up and we're going to watch. Okay, what we're seeing here, and I'm going to cut the sound so I can discuss this through. But what we see here is two women blowing whistles at law enforcement, ICE. They're blowing whistles, agitating, okay? Probably paid, okay? But no physical contact with ICE, only verbal confrontation. Now, I don't know what their regulations are to confine this type of behavior. I have no idea. I can't speak to that, but no physical contact. We see a man right here nearby filming. He motions for traffic to keep moving. I wouldn't say that's interference. I would say he's trying to be a citizen, help common man get through this nonsense. Okay. He's recording. Now, he's recording now, but he steps forward because ICE is getting physical with the women, whether he knows them or not. I don't know. They could be his friends. They could just be random people, and him trying to be a gentleman. He's like, let me go get, try to de-escalate the situation. He extends his arm. I'm not going to play the clip because YouTube won't like it, but there's an altercation where ICE pushes the woman in the white. At which case, he puts his arm out. He didn't strike him. He just put his arm out. ICE blasts him with pepper spray. After that, he's swarmed by multiple agents. He's struck. He's pinned. They're hitting him with the pepper spray canisters, the big ones, the like bear spray. He's pinned down. The entire time, he's in a ball with his hands down, as most people do when they're jumped, okay? The moment that changes everything is this right here, where an agent removes the firearm for his rear waistband. Now, terrible placement to keep. Don't keep it back here, guys. Don't keep it here. Keep that thing front. That way both hands can assess it. If you have to ride it here, you can, but definitely appendix. That way, when you get down in a ball and you're attacked, you can draw that thing. And I'm not saying draw on ICE, but I'm saying if you're jumped by 10 guys in an alley, you can access it and it won't be sticking out for somebody else to grab. So terrible placement, but here we go. So you're seeing the agent grab the pistol, okay? You see the pistols removed, okay? Again, the gun is removed. Now, everybody's seen this film, and this is where people are very upset. The agent then walks away, but we have a clear shot here. He has the firearm, which turns out to be this SIG. But he turns to walk away, okay? At that moment, the man no longer has access to a firearm, okay? Then shots are fired. So let's lock this in. You don't get to say he had a gun once the gun is gone. Okay. And stay with me. Don't get mad. I know the Kool-Aid sippers are like, oh, listen to me. Just pay attention to the video because I'm going to show something very interesting. Once disarmed, possession to no longer justifies lethal force. Okay. That's not politics, it's doctrine. But what we hear here is, let's play a clip of just what is being pushed.
Of this incident, show him holding up a cell phone and recording it, not a gun. Did he at any point pull out his weapon?
Dana, good morning, and thanks for having me. The weapon, and we do know that the suspect did bring a weapon, a loaded 9mm high-capacity handgun, to a riot. We do know that. As far as what happened in that intervening moment with the video that you just showed, That's going to come to light through the investigation. That's being investigated, and those facts and
I don't like the language. He brought a high-capacity magazine, a firearm with high-capacity magazines to a protest, because I wouldn't show up anywhere not strapped. But let's talk about the uncomfortable part. There could be a plausible explanation people don't want to talk about, hadn't seen a negligent discharge. Not from the man on the ground, but from the firearm after it was removed. Watch the video closely. You see this? Very slow. He's going, it looks like he doesn't have his finger. I mean, this is a grainy shot, but it looks like he just has his hand on the handle, and boom, right there. He jumps even. Now, there is sound of this video. I will put it on my Instagram so you can go see it and hear the sound when it pops. Someone overlaid music on it. You know the YouTubes don't like music, but you see this. And as soon as the pop happens, when he hurries up and moves away, pop, there you go. See, boom. That's when the shooting starts. Boom, 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 boom. Because the phone goes down. The guy's trying to get away from filming. Here we go again. And that's when chaos ensues. So this was a 6-hour. Okay. Does that automatically mean it's a defect? No, but they have a history of it. They have a history, okay? Does it mean the guy mishandled the firearm under stress can cause the ND? It doesn't look like his finger is anywhere near the pistol well. It looks like his finger is completely wrapped, his hand is completely wrapped around the bottom portion of the pistol. Now, devil's advocate, if a gun goes off in a chaotic scene, officers react to sound, not context. Maybe the other officer said gun, gun, gun. He removes the gun, then pow, the officers know it's not them. That's how a miscommunication happened and people die. It's also why personally I carry a freaking Glock. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how this investigation is going to fare. But, initially when I saw it, when I was posting, I didn't make a comment. I just posted on Instagram. And when I knew people had lost their mind, it's because I didn't say the officers were right. I didn't say Alex Preddy was right. I didn't say any of that. And people assume because I'm showing a clip that for some reason I'm defending either side. That's how you know we're gone as a country. We're gone. The fact of the matter is that how this transpired, because Alex Preddy, through the multiple videos I've seen, he didn't look violent. He only stuck his arm out because the officer was pushing a woman, and then he began helping her up off the ice because she was pepper sprayed. She couldn't see. People try to say he was attacking the woman. He was not. Let's stop lying. Let's just not lie. Let's be honest with ourselves. I dislike, honestly, I dislike radicalization. I dislike Kool-Aid drinkers. What I like is Constitution, truth, and people who stand for those ideals. I dislike cheering for teams because, it's the other side. I dislike a lot of things about the other side. I'm not against people having their constitutional rights, though. Because we can hear Cash Patel say here.
Firearm loaded with multiple magazines to any sort of protest that you want. It's that simple. You don't have that right to bring.
What? Say again? Say again.
Firearm loaded with multiple magazines to any sort of protest that you want. It's that simple. You don't have that right to bring.
Oh, really? Oh, really? Tell the forefathers that. Officials are saying he came at ICE with a firearm. That isn't supported by video.
bodily harm and other convictions as well. This individual went and impeded their law enforcement operations, attacked those officers, had a weapon on him and multiple dozens of rounds of ammunition, wishing to inflict harm on these officers, coming brandishing like that and
wasn't brandishing a firearm. Here's a rule you should never forget. If the justification changes after footage surfaces, it wasn't justification. It was called damage control. If he charged with the gun, the footage would end the debate. It doesn't. Okay. She's later asked this.
Investigation into the shooting death of Alex Preddy. But I want to have you walk our audience through what exactly you know. So you said last night, it looks like a situation where an individual arrived at the scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement. Did he say, I'm going to kill you, or did he leave a note? How do you know that was his intent?
You know, part of this investigation will be hearing from those agents and officers and people on the ground. But we do know that he came to that scene and impeded a law enforcement operation, which is against federal law. It's a felony. When he did that, interacting with those agents, when they tried to get him to disengage, he became aggressive and resisted them throughout that process. These officers used their training, followed their protocols, and were in fear of their lives and the people around them. And that's how this tragedy unfolded, and we hope we never see it again.
Once the negligent discharge happened, I would not doubt they were in fear for their life. Okay. Whether the negligent discharge was from the agent or from it being the SIG, and I don't know if that's the model SIG that has the problems, because I don't pay attention to SIG because I carry Glock. Glock never has problems. You know, the old ones. I don't know about this new stuff. But anyway, you hear the woman shitting all over the Constitution, shitting all over it. But it's our team. You know, take the guns too. Take her guns too. We don't need them. You cannot say open carry makes America safer, or carrying a firearm makes America safer as a citizen, and also say ICE was justified because he was carrying a gun. Pick one. Because if mere possession equals lethal threat, then carrying a firearm doesn't protect anyone. It pre-authorizes their death. Let's look at the Rittenhouse test. Kristi Noem just said she doesn't know of any peaceful protester that shows up with a gun and ammo instead of a sign. Okay. Then honestly, how do we justify Kyle Rittenhouse? Principles do not get exemptions, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't. It doesn't. Ashley Babbitt was unarmed. Many of the voices called for her shooting unjustified. So which rule are we using? Or are we just picking outcomes based on affiliation? This is the line that should alarm every American. If you can be killed after being disarmed, compliance no longer protects you. Once compliance fails, authority becomes arbitrary. And arbitrary authority is not law and order, it's force. Listen to the same, and we saw this before. I've played stuff like this before where all the news says the same thing. Listen to this.
U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic
handgun.
The officers attempted to disarm this individual, but the armed suspect reacted violently. Fearing for his life and for the lives of his fellow officers around him, an agent fired defensive shots. Medics were on the scene immediately and attempted to deliver medical aid to the subject, but he was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect also had 2 magazines with ammunition in them that held dozens of rounds. He also had no ID. This looks like a situation where an individual arrived at the scene to inflict maximum damage.
So if you show up anywhere with 2 magazines, and I wouldn't walk out of my house without 2 of them at least, then you're a domestic terrorist. That's what they're saying. And you're cheering this on. Or people are. You know, Minneapolis is already a pressure point. I just talked about this so that I think me and Mark were talking about this. It is I just saw a study that's saying this is where the Civil War will start, Minneapolis. Because since George Floyd, we saw it. It has not stopped. I talked about this in depth the other day. You should watch every video. Federal agents, National Guard on standby, under the leadership of Tim Walz. That should make you feel good. Pentagon forces in reserve, and information warfare everywhere. You don't need a grand conspiracy to see the incentive structure here. Chaos creates justification. Outrage creates expansion. Dead civilians become fuel. They want it. They want it. It's the fuel to the fire. They want it to happen. You don't think the NGOs and all these people don't want bodies in the street so it can push it forward? That's how fractured nations slide. Not overnight, but incident by incident. We just had another incident there a few weeks ago, right? Let me show you a clip, though, of Alex Preddy. I don't know the guy. I looked. They cleaned his social media, dude. You can't find anything about the guy. But I do know he was a nurse at the Veteran Affairs, and here he is doing someone passed, a veteran passed, and he's reading a memorial to him.
Terrence Lee Randolph, March 30th, 1947, December 10th, 2024. Today we remember that freedom is not free. We have to work at it, nurture it, protect it, and even sacrifice for it. May we never forget and always remember our brothers and sisters who have served so that we may enjoy the gift of freedom. So in this moment, we remember and give thanks for their dedication and selfless service to our nation in the cause of our freedom. In this solemn hour, we render them our honor and our gratitude.
You know, this isn't about your team winning. It's not. It's about whether the Constitution still exists when it's inconvenient. Because the moment you cheer for a man being killed after disarmament, you're no longer defending order. Would I have been there agitating? Absolutely not. I don't know that he was. All I saw was with a camera, and he tried to protect some women, whether he knew them or not. He was trying, it looked to me like he was trying to de-escalate. If I'm only reading the scene. I wasn't there, though. I didn't hear what he said. I don't know what happened before. I don't know. But if you're cheering for a man because he's out there, and I didn't even see him really protesting, but let's say he was using his constitutional right, even though I completely disagree with that ideology. People are commenting on my post saying he shouldn't have took a firearm there. And these are people with 1776 as their handle on Instagram. You are no longer defending the Constitution. You are no longer defending order. You are defending power. And history has never been kind to people who thought power would stop with their enemies. Stay frosty, stay strapped, stay dangerous. Black Scout out.